Hello and welcome back to the Rooted to Thrive Conversations that Elevate Our Humanity podcast. I'm your host, Rochelle Peterson-Ansari, aka Professor P. Now this is, I think, only my second solo episode, and it's the first episode of season 8. We've come a long way. And I'm so excited to do it because I have something on my mind. And so this time I didn't want to interview someone else, although the rest of the season will include interviews. It's exciting for a couple of reasons. I started this platform for people to find me, my thought leadership, and for people in helping professions in particular. People like educators, healthcare professionals who talk the talk of equity and inclusion, anti-racism, anti-oppression, but would say, I don't know how. So I set out to share, spread ideas worth sharing that were anti-oppressive, right? To help people be more anti-oppressive, help people be better humans to other humans. And then along the way, a shift happened. I began to get curious about what the people who this work is for, this equity and inclusion work is for, what do those people need? What do they need to counter, to stand firm against oppressive forces? And when I say they, I mean we, right? So I began to include more voices to help Black, Indigenous, people of color, non-binary folks, people who are in the queer community, people with disabilities, women, choose lives that serve them well. Now, at the same time the shift was happening in me, my work was shifting too. So I started digging into the research, like really some deep dives into the research on stress management, prevention, thinking and behavior that no longer served us well, like perfectionism, workaholism, seeking your worth in your accomplishments, and defining who you are by how much you can endure, and seeking approval of others. And I landed on a theme that was common throughout that. I called it, at one point, the Black woman's disease. Yes, I did. What I call it now is toxic resilience. One thing that generations of people who have been oppressed know is resilience. We know how to adapt, recover, move through microaggressions and other difficulties, and we bounce back. We keep going despite hardships and other setbacks that were out of our control. Generations of that. But I also noticed that our bounce back, our endurance, was at a cost to our wellness. So after decades of mentoring, teaching, training, advocating for other people's children, families, professionals, and more recently, coaching full-time, I noticed that we needed more tools. Tools to understand our thinking, tools to see our behaviors that are running in the background and keeping us in survival mode instead of thriving mode. I believe that we are all created to thrive, right? Rooted to thrive. So for season 8 and beyond, we will speak to the hearts and minds of the resilient across the globe. How do we get out of our own way? What do we need to put down to thrive? What do we need to pick up to thrive? Well, those who are designed to dismantle structural barriers, while they do their work, We are going to work with the people from the ground up to build people up so that we can build up your armor to protect and grow healthy and resilient. So today I wanted to talk about resilience without self-abandonment. And remember, I talked about toxic resilience. Now listen, folks, I know resilience is necessary. We need the ability to adapt, to recover, to move through difficulty and continue forward. But resilience becomes toxic when the way we bounce back requires us to abandon ourselves. So my topic today is resilience without self-abandonment. Okay, listen to this. Resilience becomes toxic, as I said, right? When the way we bounce back requires to abandon ourselves. This is what it looks like. Bouncing back looks like silencing myself, carrying it alone, saying yes when I mean no, ignoring my body, needing to be needed. And those are just a few of the things that I want to talk about today. It looks like pushing down your feelings. You know, when your mama or your partner or your boss or your friend crosses a boundary with you, and instead of saying that hurt, you swallow it because you don't want to start anything. You're actually disconnecting from what you feel in order to preserve a relationship or peace or your image as a strong person. It looks like refusing to ask for help. This is a good one. When we're exhausted, overwhelmed, barely keeping our heads above water, but somebody asks us if we need anything and we automatically say, no, I got it, I'm good. That's you believing strength means carrying everything yourself. This is what else it looks like. Being loving means you never say no. When somebody asks you to do one more thing and everything inside of you is screaming, I don't have it in me. But you hear yourself saying, sure, I can do it. Every yes, folks, every yes to someone else can become a no to yourself. It looks like when strength means you never get to be tired. When you're running on 4 hours of sleep, your body is aching. You still say, oh, I'll rest after I finish everything for everybody who needs me. Self-abandonment isn't just emotional. It's ignoring what your body has been trying to tell you. And this one is about to step on some toes, I know. It looks like when being needed becomes proof that you matter. I'll say it again. When being needed is proof that you matter. When you feel lost, guilty, or even rejected when people stop needing you to fix things, because being the one everybody depends on has become how you know you matter, we need to talk. Now, this is personal to me. For a long time, I wanted to help my Black and brown sisters and other people's children release the impact of racism, sexism, family expectations, trauma, and all kinds of social conditioning. I wanted to help them because I would hear things like, let's say we're in a conversation and somebody asks, how you doing? And the answer is this. Well, I have 3 deadlines. My mama needs something. The children need something. Something happened at work. I haven't slept. I need to get to the doctor and I have a meeting in 10 minutes. But I'm good, right? And then in that conversation, we're laughing because somehow carrying 10 things or more at the same time, without taking a breath, became normal. Sometimes it even became a badge of honor. And then there's the martyrdom. Guilty, guilty, guilty. The idea that everybody else is supposed to be okay before I am okay. Everybody else eats first, gets my attention, gets my energy, gets my compassion. And maybe, if there's anything left, I get some. Well, I came to understand something in my own life. That wasn't generosity. Some of that was just conditioning. Some of it was fear. Some of it was self-protection, which is based in fear. And some of it came from beliefs I formed long before I was mature enough to understand what was happening to me. I learned very early in life that safety was not guaranteed. I learned to protect myself. I even learned to protect adults as a child. And I also was labeled as a gifted kid. I know you didn't expect to hear that, but I was labeled as a gifted kid. So I learned that when I excelled academically or musically, when I achieved, then people noticed me. I mattered. So somewhere along the way, achievement became connected to validation. And that ran quietly in the background for decades. Be exceptional, work hard, do more, get it right, look good, be good, help people, don't disappoint, keep moving. And from the outside, that can look like success. I know somebody listening knows what I'm talking about. Here's the catch. You can be accomplished and still be deeply unwell. You can be the person everybody describes as wise and still have distorted beliefs running in the background, like I did. You can be leading people and still be afraid. You can be helping everybody else and slowly disappearing from your own life. For me, eventually, the perfectionism, workaholism, anxiety, worry, constant self-protection took a toll on my mental and emotional well-being. And I had a moment where I thought, oh, this is not you, girl. Stop. Change it. And I did. Now, for me, I went straight to my foundation. It was, going to get better. If it was going to get better, I had to get some spiritual wisdom. I thought, I better at least get closer to God. There's some scripture that talks about our focus, right? Like to focus on what is good. And that's all I knew, that God was good. So I said, listen, let me go there. And folks, I was in my 50s. This is not a child talking. I was in my 50s. So I began reading scripture, and I read it every day. But I read before I spoke to another human being in the morning, because of my day of reckoning had me waking up angry. But I wrote about it each day, right? I wrote about what I was reading. I reflected on it. I was asking, well, I don't know what that means. Let me look something else up, right? I was just asking God to show me what I couldn't see about myself. And some things became painfully clear. I had spent a lot of time seeking approval from other human beings. Yes. I had been behaving as though if I just could be good enough, useful enough, excellent enough, helpful enough, maybe, just maybe, I could protect myself from rejection, criticism, even harm. I was just always trying to keep myself safe. And I had to confront the reality that no amount of perfectionism was ever going to help keep me safe. No amount of helping people was going to control how they treated me. No amount of accomplishment was ever going to create a permanent sense of validation. I had to find something else. I had to find myself. So one of the questions that became incredibly important to me was very simple. Who am I? And yes, I have a very good friend, sorority sister, who asked me that question. So I went to work. Who was I? Not my job title, not my wife, not being a wife, daughter, sister, or someone who everybody else needed. I asked, who am I? And then I asked, who was I created to be? That question took me weeks. I journaled. I came back to it again and again. And eventually, I began to see what I valued. I began to notice the things that lit me up from the inside, the work that left me energized instead of depleted. And I came to understand something fundamental about myself. I was actually created to facilitate self-discovery. Now, this is one of the reasons coaching fits me so naturally. I listen beneath what people are saying and trust, folks. I'm convinced that initially came out of the impact of trauma I experienced, right? I'm looking to hear what you really mean because I didn't trust initially. I hear patterns, I hear assumptions, I hear the beliefs under the words, and I love helping people. I love helping somebody see themselves more clearly and decide what they want to do with what they find. That discovery changed me. So because once we know who we are, we can begin making decisions from identity instead of fear-based decisions. So a key step out of this self-abandonment and toward self-honoring is asking that question, finding out who you are. Yes? And sit with it. It actually was a key to self-acceptance for me. I didn't really know until I was in this period of being really focused on nothing but getting better, right? Getting healed and growing my spiritual relationship with God and my spiritual wisdom. The quiet of it helped me really focus and see my identity, not what the world told me I was. Now, this toxic resilience, right, overall, it's not just a wellness issue. It even affects us, how we lead. And you're leading at home, you're leading in the workplace, leading in community, you're leading. You know, I talk to teachers, you're leading your classroom, yes? To a degree, right? You determine what happens there. We lead all of the time. And the very thing that you're always leading, or the very person or people you're leading, is yourself. So 3 places that I saw constantly, I saw things coming up for people, again, through coaching and actually through decades of working with people, were issues with boundaries, confidence, and asking for help. But now, in this episode, I'm just going to talk a little bit about boundaries. Toxic resilience shows up as boundaries or lack of boundaries. Let me tell you, almost every woman I have met in my lifetime has had to wrestle in some form with boundaries or asking for help. We have confused love with unlimited access. We have confused leadership with availability. We have confused competence with doing everything ourselves. Okay, that just sat with me because that was true for me. We have confused service with rescuing. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is simply what? No. full stop. No 10-minute explanation, no dissertation, no 3-paragraph apology, no. And think about this. Every yes is also a no. Because when you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something else. You're saying no to your rest, your creativity, your health, your family, your peace, your own work, and boundaries don't mean that you stop being generous. I'm not asking you to become less loving, less giving, less community-oriented, committed to your family, to justice, to lifting up other people. I'm challenging self-erasure, not service. There's a difference. So what does healthy resilience require? It requires that we stop abandoning ourselves in order to prove that we can survive. Feel the feelings. Ask for help. Say no. Listen to your body and separate your worth from your usefulness. You know, there's an image people use all the time. They say you can't pour from an empty cup, right? I want to take that a little further. I don't want to spend my life pouring from a half-empty cup either. I want to pour from overflow. And that means we have to intentionally make deposits. And this is something I practice. I begin paying attention to my pace. How do I feel in my body during a busy week? When I'm energized? When I'm depleted? What creates calm for me? What creates joy? What restores me? And then I stopped treating those things as rewards. They became a part of how I structure my life. Yes, yours truly takes breaks, sometimes every 25 to 30 minutes. I take a 5-minute break. Some days I use a timer if I have to, because I can get super focused and sit for 3 hours. I take lunch, a real lunch break. Now, I know depending on what part of the globe you're in, there are countries where people take a very large amount of time in the middle of the day to restore and to eat, to commune with people. That's not so much in the U.S. So for me, sometimes my break is an hour. Sometimes it's an hour and a half, because my brain needs to reset. I don't sit there scrolling through work disguised as rest either. Sometimes I watch something funny because I work from a space that has a television, and I like to just release, like to make sure that my brain is not working on work or the next thing that has to be done. I have to focus on something. So I watch something, but also something that is uplifting. So it's usually some comedy that I can watch for 22 minutes or so, yeah? Sometimes I sit in silence. It has become so soothing. Sometimes I go outside, smell flowers. I love the smell of the trees, the flowering trees. In the springtime. Oh my goodness, the other day I sat on the back porch and I said, let me just find some joy while I'm sitting here for 15 minutes. I'm being intentional. And a black butterfly crossed my path. I was thrilled. One of my favorite songs from back in the day is called Black Butterfly. And I always am intrigued by them and red robins. Okay, I digress. So, I smell the flowers, look at the trees, the sky. I'm always looking for shapes in the clouds. I don't know, it's just a thing. And I listen to music. I'm making deposits, joy deposits, calm deposits, energy deposits, rest deposits, so that when life requires something from me, right? When life requires something and, more challenging, I'm not always withdrawing from an overdrawn account. So that's what healthy resilience looks like for me. Now, like my past, your past decisions don't need to dictate your future unless you let it. Feel the hurt when someone crosses your boundaries. But ask yourself, what is possible for me if I want to keep this relationship and honor myself? Ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped carrying everything myself? What would happen if I trusted myself enough to know that I am being loving by saying no? Folks, we do it all the time with children, right? We want to keep them safe and healthy, and sometimes we have to say no to what they're asking. Why not be loving to yourself first? What would happen if you stopped asking, will everybody understand, or will they understand? I'm not going to say who cares, but start asking, is this mine, right? Is this mine to carry? Now, I have called my work around toxic resilience liberation work. Because racism, sexism, and other oppressive forces have created real systems, real barriers, and real harm. And I'm not pretending that individual mindset work dismantles structural oppression. Oppressive systems, policies, leaderships, and institutions need to change. And at the same time, I refuse to surrender the agency I already possess while I wait for systems to change. Those oppressive forces have built houses in our minds about who we are supposed to be, how much we're supposed to carry, how hard we're supposed to work, how agreeable we should be, how palatable we should be, we should be, how grateful we should be, how strong we should be, how much pain we should tolerate. And some of us have been living inside those houses so long that we started calling them home. But guess what? Liberation includes walking out. So I want to leave you with a question. Actually, I want you to sit with it, journal about it, talk about it with somebody you trust, come back to it more than once. Here it is. What are you ready to put down that the person you are becoming no longer needs? And then ask, what becomes possible when you do? That part is important. What becomes possible when you put that thing down? You're allowed to put something down. You're allowed to ask for help. You're allowed to rest, to change your mind, to trust yourself, and you're absolutely allowed to be well. That is strength. That is healthy. That is liberation. That is resilience. So folks, thank you for staying to the end. Until next time, stay rooted and keep choosing what allows you to thrive. I will see you next time. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And yes, somebody came to mind while you were listening to this. Send them this episode, and I'll see you next time.